Well friends, here we are once again in what seems to be a quarterly tradition for this channel. We are checking out all of the insane numbers that Nintendo released in their recent financial report on February 4th. Now you guys know the drill at this point. Pierre485 is the one on X who is delivering all of this information in a condensed package for us all to look at. All credit goes to them for my information on this video, and of course to Nintendo overall. And we are going to look at all of these insane numbers because I'm telling you right now, these numbers paint an interesting picture. A picture of the Switch's downfall and a picture of how Nintendo is going to be moving forward in developing their games for the Switch 2. But before we get to all of the news and financial reports here, make sure you like and subscribe to today's video, click the notification bell if you want to know exactly when my videos come out, and join my membership program for just a few bucks a month to get early access to videos just like this one. So, back to the video. Now, this financial report didn't cover just any quarter, it covered quarter 4. Quarter 4 is the quarter in which most companies, including Nintendo, will make their most money. And why is that? Well, that's because quarter 4 falls into the holiday section of most people's calendars, around that November and December and January time period where everyone is just buying stuff and Christmas presents and Black Friday and Thanksgiving, all of the holiday times, all of the money being spent on things that most likely you don't necessarily need, but people go out to buy what they want. And the Nintendo Switch and every single product from Nintendo is no different to a lot of people, including myself. We go out during the holidays and we buy up some games and we buy up some consoles if we have yet to buy them. So, what is it about this fourth quarter that I had predicted last time? Well, last time, the chart had pretty much seen a pretty steep decline. I had seen about 11 million in 2020, 10.6 in 21, 8 million in 22, 7 million in 23. So this year I was predicting somewhat of a steeper decline, somewhere around 6 to 5 million, but we ended up hitting 4.8 million. That is a bit of a steeper decline than I had anticipated, but you know, 4.8, it's still not bad, considering the idea of the Switch 2 had been floating around all over the place all of last year. Going into quarter 4, it could have been a lot worse. A lot of people could have just held out and waited for the Switch 2 announcement, and they didn't. They went out and they bought Switches, and that brought up the total number of Nintendo Switch units to 150 million units, which is just 5 million units away from Nintendo's best-selling handheld console and console of all time, the DS. 155 million units is what that console sits at, and just 10 million away from what Sony has updated for the PS2, now sitting at 160 million, even though just not all that long ago they said it was at 155, but you know, they wanted to spruce up those numbers the second they saw that the Switch was catching up to them, which was very odd and kind of a weird, scared move by PlayStation, and I don't understand why they felt the need to do that, but you know, it is what it is, and to be honest, I think the Switch will absolutely 100% catch the DS, and could very well catch the PS2, but it will probably take a few years. Now, if we have anything to take from this financial report and how Nintendo has handled the Switch 2 announcements, they don't really care about the Nintendo Switch being the best-selling console of all time. Sure, that would be a great thing to report at another financial report, and if they pass the DS, I'm sure that will be a big deal for them internally, and just for them to tell all of their investors and developers to be like, hey, you guys have been a part of this biggest success of Nintendo's history. And even if they don't pass the DS numbers, the profit margins are insane here for Nintendo. We've talked about this in the past, but no other console generation has even come close to the Nintendo Switch for Nintendo. Their entire Switch generation worth of profits have surpassed every single generation Nintendo has ever had before, combined. So this is the biggest success Nintendo has ever had by far in terms of monetary value, and I also think in terms of the type of population that Nintendo has captivated here with the Switch. So many gamers and people who are going to keep buying games and will want to move on to the Switch 2 have bought Switches. But yes, you've heard that a million times by now on my channel and on other channels. The Switch is a massive success, and Nintendo is very, very happy with these numbers, even if this decline is a little bit steeper than what most people would have anticipated. Now it's time to get into the first game of this financial report, and that game is Mario, shipping over 6.17 million units in its just 10-week debut, making it the biggest debut in franchise history and instantly became the 5th best-selling Mario Party game of all time. Whoa, Nintendo, whoa. For that to happen not only in the Switch's last year, but just for it to be the third Mario Party on the console, that is some insane numbers right there. Those are some insane numbers. And I have a lot to say about it because, oh my goodness, what does this mean? Well, first of all, it means that people are still playing Nintendo Switch games, unlike the success of the Wii, in which games like Skyward Sword and really any first-party game on that console was coming out towards the end of its life or even in the middle of its life, and people just weren't going out to buy it. They didn't have interest in paying for software. People on the Switch are still invested in the console. They're not fizzling out. They're not fizzling away from Nintendo or to other consoles or to PCs or to whatever you might think of playing. They are still here to buy Switch games. So for this game to sell 6 million in 10 weeks, that tells me that yes, if Nintendo is going to put out interesting games, games that have mass appeal, games that are just good and review well and people enjoy and have no controversy because it's just a dang good game, you're gonna go out and buy it. And that is proof. That is just proof right there for interest in series and games being good, just selling themselves. Now, Metroid, for example, or for what's coming up next, Mario and Luigi, these game series that don't seem to sell as well, I am disappointed by that. I am very, very disappointed by that because I would think that with such a large install base, there would be enough people interested in these games to go out and buy them when they come out, but they just don't seem to have that much interest. And so that means to me that this game was going to sell well no matter when it came out in the Switch's life. Sure, if this game had come out in 2020 when most people were just going crazy for the Switch and everyone was locked up and, everything was just going to be gaming all the time for them instead of worrying about having to go outside and all that, this game probably would have sold a lot more. But for it to sell this well now at the very tail end of the Switch's life shows that yes, people are interested in games, and when they are interested, they're going to go buy it. It totally debunks the idea of, the Switch is at its tail end of its life, so of course this game or that game wouldn't sell that well. I despise that argument to my very core. It makes no sense to say, the Switch is almost done, so of course people are done buying games. Especially considering the idea of the next console, the Switch 2, being completely backwards compatible means anyone can go out and buy the games and not have to worry about it because they're going to be able to play it on the Switch 2 as well. It has nothing to do with where the Switch is at in its life. It has everything to do with if a game interests someone, and if it doesn't, they just don't buy it. So congratulations to Super Mario Party Jamboree for being the most successful opening to a Mario Party game ever, and for what will likely be one of the best-selling Mario Party games and one of the best-selling Switch games ever. This game was absolutely worthy of all of that. It was an amazing game. I reviewed it very well. You should go watch that review whenever you get a chance. It was awesome. I loved this game and was shocked that Nintendo Cube was able to do what they were able to do. Oh boy, here we go. All right, Mario and Luigi Brothership sold 1.84 million units in its debut 7 weeks. And oh man, here, let me start this off with saying some positive things. Mario and Luigi Brothership was very well received by a lot of people. Some review outlets, including IGN and all of that, and I even didn't review it very positively, but there were so many people I saw online adored this game, and I am so happy for them. I'm glad they loved it. I wish I could have loved it myself, and this is a modest success, and it shows that Nintendo is, unlike other companies, is able to take modern successes like this, modest successes, and say, hey, we're good with that. This game we know isn't going to sell that well. We hope it ends up selling well. Luigi's Mansion 3. They go out on a limb and say, this is a game, we're going to market it well, we're going to try to get it out there and see how it receives. And people didn't receive it as well as one might expect, but it was still a modest success. And I would be a total and complete hypocrite to say this game is a failure because I love the Xenoblade games, and for those games to sell 2 to 3 million, I love the Metroid games, and for those games to sell 2 to 3 million, that's pretty good for those respective series, and for Nintendo to keep going back to that well is amazing because they know the fan base of those games adore those games and will absolutely go out and buy all of them up. They will advertise them freely online. They will get people to buy those games. And it's kind of the same here for Mario and Luigi Brothership, except there's one thing different about this than those games that make me so much less willing to give it leeway. And that is the fact that it has Mario on the cover. Mario and Luigi Brothership is the title of this game. It is a Mario game. Mario is the biggest franchise Nintendo owns, besides Pokemon, of course, but I kind of put that in a different category because Game Freak makes those games, yada yada yada. But Mario is the biggest mascot of Nintendo here, and this series can't even sell 2 million units on its debut. I mean, that is just kind of pathetic in my opinion, and I don't mean to be rude here or to make people upset, but you look at the Mario sports games, they sell way more than this, and a lot of people do not like that. Those games get a lot of bad press because of how kind of lazy that they have been in developing those games. Mario Kart sells out the wazoo. It sells like bananas, and we're getting up to that soon. The 3D Mario games, the 2D Mario games, every other type of Mario game sells like crazy. And Nintendo doesn't even have to put a ton of effort into the sports games. And I'm sure that they put way more effort into these long RPG games than they did into the sports ones. And yet, they don't sell. And that is indicative to me of a couple of things. One, people aren't interested in RPGs the way that you might expect. Which, of course, if you look at the overall RPG sales methods of other types of games like Final Fantasy, those games sell pretty well and better than Brothership and better than Mario and Luigi at large. So the RPG crowd here just isn't really jumping at the Mario RPG franchise as a whole. Now, Super Mario RPG sold 3 million, 3.3, and that is a very modest success. I really am proud of that game for selling as much as it did. I adored that game. So many people love that game. The Thousand Year Door sold 2 million, and you know what? That's kind of to be expected. It was a remake. It was a different game. It wasn't a brand new one. But the Origami King sold 3.4 million as well. And you know, that is a very good success for that type of game as well. Now, Brothership is not going to sell hardly any more units than this. Sure, this was just the first 7 weeks, but that is when the most sales are going to come out for this game. I'm sure it will hit like 2 million units and then completely and totally fizzle out, and that is fine. But for me to go online and to see people being like, yes, this game, it was such a massive success, everyone loved it, and it sold amazingly well, is just false, in my opinion. It is just false. Mario is on the cover of this, and it couldn't even sell 2 million units in its debut. And that is just sad to me. And I hope that the people who enjoy this series continue to enjoy it, that they love it, that Nintendo continues to give them games. But I think this says a little bit more about the series and about these games at large. I think it says that people don't care, that people didn't enjoy this series and didn't enjoy this game, that they didn't want to go out and buy it. The opposite of Jamboree here is this game. Jamboree sold 6 million, had amazing reviews, loved across the board, biggest Mario Party ever. People loved it, and sure, it's a bigger series, so you're going to expect bigger sales, but you can't tell me that a game that does not sell all that well, like Mario and Luigi Brothership, does have mass appeal, because that is the backlash that I seem to have been getting from my review of this game and just what I have seen online. People are acting like this game is going to sell 10 million units and has already sold that much. They're acting like it's an immediate classic and like it's the best thing since Mario Odyssey, and it's just not. And that is okay. That is completely and totally fine. But just don't go haywire with this game. Please stop going haywire with Brothership. It is a very modest success, and that is all it is. It's not anything better than that. And I'm not trying to discourage people. I'm not trying to get into the Brothership mindset here of hating it, blah, blah, blah. But I just didn't think it was a good game, and I think this reflects that. And once again, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, I'm not trying to be hypocritical here. Sales don't always equate to the quality of a game. I'm just saying, especially as a big Xenoblade fan and a big Metroid fan, looking at those games, they haven't sold that well, but I still think that that is the pinnacle of quality are those games. So for Brothership to not sell that well doesn't inherently mean that it is a bad game. But what I am saying is that for you to have Mario on the cover of a game and for it not to sell hardly well at all, for Metroid and Xenoblade to outsell it, that just tells me that it doesn't have the appeal that some people are acting like it does, and that it just isn't that great of a game as other people might anticipate. For those reasons, I say Brothership isn't as good as it might seem, not because of its sales alone. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. We're moving on. We're going to rapid fire a couple different games here, starting off with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, selling 3 million copies this quarter alone. Oh my gosh. What the heck? I mean, I can't. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. But quarter 4, I guess, that's a part of it, right? 3 million copies. It sold 3 million copies. This is a game that is a decade old. A decade old. And on the Switch, it is technically only, 8 years old? Because it came out in April of 2017, and we're coming up on that 8-year mark. But for it to have come out on the Wii U, to then come out on the Switch, and to continue to sell every single quarter as if it is a brand new game, for it to almost double the sales of Mario and Luigi Brothership is insane. It's insane. So this game, what does it say about it? Well, it says it's an amazing game. It says people love Mario Kart. It says Nintendo needs to get out the new Mario Kart as fast as possible and continue to market that, like they have for the Switch 2. They have found this game and this franchise at large is the thing that they need to push, and that is crazy to see, and I'm glad to see it because 8 Deluxe is a phenomenal game. So continue to make great games like this, Nintendo. Echoes of Wisdom. This is shocking to me. Another 1.3 million units sold during the holiday, getting it to just over 3.9 million, and it will definitely hit 4 million before the Switch 2 comes out. And that is so cool to see because obviously this was another game that when it came out I was kind of iffy on, but over time I think I have come to appreciate what it is. It's not the best Zelda game, it's not even the best 2D Zelda game in my opinion, but it was great for what it was trying to be in its own way. It had problems, but hey, I still look back on this experience more fondly than I did at the time. I'm glad to see this game sell this well, and what does it say? Well, it says that Zelda games just continue to be more in the spotlight than in any other generation ever. The Twilight Princess epidemic was something that a lot of people were holding on to, hoping that maybe, Zelda is going to end up selling really well now because that game kind of sold the best out of all of the other games, and then Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom came along, revolutionized the series, made the series totally mainstream. And now people are streaming the games, they're playing them on YouTube, they just love Zelda. And for this game to sell as well as it is selling says a lot about the series moving forward, and I am just so excited, especially here at the tail end of this console, for this game to be selling as well as it is. That's amazing, and I hope they continue to make other Zelda games like this for people who want the traditional type of Zelda, but hopefully they get rid of the slider system. That was just crazy. Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door gets a couple more 100,000 units. It's over 2.06 million now. That game was extremely disappointing to a lot of people sales-wise, but still, it was a phenomenal game. I got about 3/4, I was like 80% of the way through the game, and then I just dropped it because I had so many other things to do at the time in life and with other games to play and review, but still, it was a phenomenal game. Glad to see it selling at least a little bit more. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD sold 230,000 more units in this quarter, now over 1.8 million. That went exactly how I predicted. It sold its initial 1.7, I think, and then totally died out. Totally and completely died out, and that is just the price. That is just it not being a good port, in my opinion, for it to just be HD, kind of like Donkey Kong. It's just upsetting and unfortunate. So, moving on to Mario Wonder, that game sold 2.07 million units in the last 9 months, and it has sold over 15.5 million units to date. That is phenomenal. I'm glad to see such creativity being rewarded. For this game to continue to go out there and sell well is awesome for the series and awesome for 2D Mario fans, because the New Super series, we've talked about this all the time, wasn't creative, wasn't fun, just wasn't what people were looking for anymore after it had been so oversaturated. So for this game to go out there and continue to sell well, to match up with the predecessors that have always sold insanely well, I mean, looking at this graphic, the lowest selling 2D Mario game is 10 million units. Whoa, that is insane. I didn't even realize that. 10 million units is the lowest this series have ever seen, and that is something that a lot of series cannot say. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet reached over 690,000 units in the last 3 months. Yay! It is the fastest selling game in the series and the third best selling Pokemon title ever. It has sold over 100 million games on the Switch, has the Pokemon series, and that is just sad to me because none of those games put in any sort of effort to make the games look good, to make the experience more fun than the predecessor, to evolve the series in any sort of way. I have never played a Pokemon game, I always like to preface that, but just the commentary around these games, the videos I have seen, the gameplay I have watched, it just doesn't look to be all that bright for the Pokemon future, so hopefully Switch 2 will change that. Moving forward with Tears of the Kingdom adding 570,000 units in this quarter. That is awesome. It is the second best-selling game in the Zelda franchise, and more than 57% of 3D Zelda games were sold on the Nintendo Switch. That is a huge statistic. I know just like a couple quarters ago, I think it was 6 or 9 months ago, something like that, I remember making a video talking about how Breath of the Wild had outsold Tears of the Kingdom in its respective quarter, and that was a little bit concerning to me about the sales of Tears of the Kingdom, if it would continue to have legs, if people would continue to buy it, if the public perception and the YouTube videos of people saying this game is trash actually got to people, but no, it didn't, and no, Zelda. It's just Zelda. Zelda continues to sell well. People love this game, love these franchises, and I hope they continue in this direction and they continue to evolve the series. Animal Crossing New Horizons. Always great to see this game do well. It almost hit 1 million copies sold in the last 3 months, which is kind of like the Mario Kart effect here. It continues to sell every single quarter, and especially quarter 4, you're going to see more and more sales like this. It's awesome to see. It's an amazing game. It sold phenomenally well. COVID really helped this game out. It was such a cozy and lovable game. It hit mainstream really quickly, and now the game has 47.44 million units worldwide, and it has sold over 60% of the entire series alone. Just this game has sold over 60% of the series sales. That is showing a lot of cool things for Nintendo. It's showing Nintendo needs to get more into this Animal Crossing game. This is mainstream now, baby. This is one of those upper echelon series for Nintendo. They gotta be strategic about when they release the next game, and I hope they continue to do well with their developers, giving them time, not crunching them like they did with this game, and got rewarded for it. Smash Bros. Ultimate sold 740,000 copies. Breath of the Wild sold another 330,000 copies. Mario Odyssey selling 540,000 copies in this last quarter. Lifetime sales of that game particularly are up to 29 million units, and I would not be surprised to see it hit 30 by this time next year. That is great for Mario, great for Zelda, great for Smash. Again, just showing all of these amazing series hitting their stride, having the Switch be focused on gamers, and having these games sell as well as they do shows a lot about Nintendo and their future. Now, there are a lot of other games that I'm going to skip over here because I don't have as much to say about them, but just know Nintendo games continue to sell well. The first-party games continue to be really, really big juggernauts. Now, this game is one I would never have expected to do this well, and I don't know why I wouldn't have expected it to do well, because the series at large has always seemed to have done this well, but Nintendo Switch Sports in the last quarter alone sold 1.37 million units. What? I'm so confused at this. It is over 15.74 million units in its entire lifespan, so 15 million people bought Nintendo Switch Sports. For this game to kind of regress the entire series at large, because Wii Sports was the first one, obviously that took off like crazy, was the packing game with the Wii, that's why it sold as much as it did, but then Wii Sports Resort came out and sold 33 million units, all on its own, not as a pack-in game, not as anything, people just went out and bought it, because they truly loved the idea of more Wii Sports. Then, for it to come out decades later on the Switch, revitalized, revamped for all of these. They took away the Miis, but they didn't, because you could still use your Miis, but they didn't advertise the idea of Miis. For them to take out so many sports from Resort and just really make it like a Wii Sports reboot to where it's just 5 or 6 sports, and then they added 2 or 3 later on. It just shows that, people love this series. They love the idea of playing with these types of games, and they don't care what Nintendo does for it. They just want more of it. Now, does this mean that the next time a Switch Sports or a Switch 2 Sports comes out, that people will be more hesitant to buy it? And, I wasn't a fan of it, so I just am not going to go for it. I don't think so, to be honest. Like, that is a possibility, sure, but people aren't buying this game to expect the pinnacle of quality or just the pinnacle of effort in general. They're buying it to have a little bit of fun, swinging the Joy-Con around, swinging your leg around to play soccer, doing all this crazy fun stuff, having a good time with your parties and friends and everything, and then just forgetting about it. That is what these games do best, and it is appealing a lot to that blue ocean crowd of non-gamers. So I don't think this game is going to continue to sell less than this. This is probably going to be the standard moving forward. This game will continue to sell well over the lifespan of the Switch, and I will just continue to be flabbergasted by the idea of this series selling so well. Now, the last thing I would like to look at today is just in 2024, how did these games sell? In what order were all of these first-party games sold? Well, number one, can you guess, in 2024, what was the highest selling Nintendo first-party game in the year 2024? Not 2017, 18, 19, 24. Well, let me tell you, it was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe again. 6.7 million units in 2024 alone. I'm gonna lose my ever-loving mind because number two obviously was Jamboree. We saw 6.1 million units. Then Echoes of Wisdom at 3.9. Mario Wonder at 3.5, Switch Sports again at 3.2, Animal Crossing New Horizons 2.6, Smash Ultimate 2.2, then we had Mario the Thousand Year Door, 2 million units in the year 2024, Brothership at the very end 1.8, I skipped over Pokemon because who cares, Scarlet and Violet did get 2 million though, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD 1.8 million, Mario Odyssey 1.3, Tears of the Kingdom 1.2, Breath of the Wild sold over 1 million in this year as well, which is just insane to continue to see that success. Mario U Deluxe 800,000, Mario Party 760,000, and then Sword and Shield 430,000 units. This is a very, very healthy chart here to see games of old, games of new, games in the middle, games everywhere, just selling well in the final year of the Nintendo Switch, just being the only Nintendo console that year. This year, we already have seen the release of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, Xenoblade Chronicles X will be coming in March, and we know for a fact Metroid Prime 4 Beyond and Pokemon ZA will also be on the Nintendo Switch. Now, for the rest of this console's lifespan, we have no idea if there are going to be any more games announced, or if there are going to be any more games specifically just for Switch. But I do know for a fact this was the best Nintendo generation of all time, and I could not have been happier to share it with you guys. At the very last little bit of this section here, I just want to say thank you for sticking with my channel this past year. It has been so much fun. I love going through all of these numbers and seeing what they mean, my opinions on them, how these games are doing, just to keep you guys informed. These are the kind of data points that I think a lot of people in the community do look at but don't necessarily focus on, so I'm just trying to draw a little bit more attention to it because Pierre485 specifically is doing such great work, and they only have 5.7 thousand followers, so please everyone go follow Pierre485 for all of this beautiful information. And the next time we do one of these videos, I'm pretty sure Nintendo will have totally blown out all the information of the Switch 2, and we will know what is next for Nintendo, what the next console looks like, what games are going to be on that, and we'll do this whole cycle all over again. So I am incredibly excited to do that, and I am thankful that you guys are here alongside with me. Make sure you like and subscribe today's video if you enjoyed the content. Once again, join my membership program to get early access to videos just like this one. If you want to know what was going on the last time we talked about a financial report, make sure to click on the left side of your screen. And if you want to know all of the breakdown of what happened in 2024 and my predictions for the 2025 season, make sure you click on the playlist on the right side of your screen. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day.